I call this meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for being here. We do not have a closed session report tonight. So I am going to ask Mr. Mike Nolan if he would come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Thank you, Mike. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Rhodes?
Here.
Councilmember Litzter?
Here.
Councilmember Kavanaugh?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Judge? Mayor Thomas?
Here. Are there any items for agenda review? Seeing none.
Mr. Mayor, I move that all resolutions and ordinances presented tonight be read in title only and all further reading be waived.
Second?
Call for a vote.
The motion passes unanimously.
If any member of the city council may have a conflict of interest or any reason why that member must abstain from consideration of any matter on this agenda, he or she should declare so at this time. Seeing none.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, the first item on the agenda is item 1D1, presentation of a proclamation declaring the month of October 2023 as Bullying Prevention Month, and Community Services Coordinator Kristen Ticknack is here to present this item.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Thomas and members of the City Council. The month of October 2023 is recognized as Bullying Prevention Month. To accept the proclamation, I would like to invite the following Youth Council members to come forward: Sanjeev Akundi, Ethan Bhatt, Pranav Bajith, great, Abhishek Humbe, Jasleen Kangura, Nandia Krishnamurthy, Adi Nair, Kalissa Rowe, Sadie Rowe, and Sanchana Sridharan. The proclamation reads, whereas 1 out of 5 or 20% of American students report being bullied, and whereas multiple research studies have concluded that bullying is the most common form of violence, and whereas bullying is physical, verbal, or emotional harm and intimidation intentionally directed at a person or a group of people, and whereas bullying occurs everywhere, including neighborhoods, schools, workplaces, and online through technology, and whereas targets of bullying are more likely to acquire long-lasting physical, emotional, behavioral, and learning problems, and are more likely to refrain from participating in school, work, and attending community activities. And whereas it is estimated over 4.5 million students skip school annually due to bullying, and 85% of the time, no one intervenes to help. And whereas everyone's actions matter and we all have a role to play in creating a world without bullying by uniting for kindness, acceptance, and inclusion. And whereas the Simi Valley Youth Council has identified decreasing bullying as one of its priorities and will coordinate a citywide bullying prevention campaign. Now, therefore, the month of October 2023 is hereby proclaimed Bullying Prevention Month in the city of Simi Valley to reduce the incidence of bullying in the community, presented this 25th day of September 2023.
Well, I got to say, I just attended a youth council meeting. I was like so impressed by the young people that are serving on this youth council. And what really hit me the most was they don't talk about what's bothering them. They're finding issues and finding solutions and dealing with them. And I really think it's wonderful. And I am really impressed with you guys. Anyways, this is for you guys. I don't know who wants to take it. And does somebody want to get a picture? Okay. Do you guys want to
And Adi,
hop in here with you? Okay?
And Mayor, after the picture, I think someone wanted to respond. So we want to be sure that the youth can respond.
Yeah.
All right, hello everyone. On behalf of the Youth Council, thank you, Mayor Thomas, as well as the rest of the City Council for proclaiming October as our Stop Bullying Month. This issue is really far-reaching, and we're guessing that almost everyone here has been affected by bullying in some form at some point throughout their lives. So, as part of our bullying prevention campaign, we're coordinating a citywide Stop Bullying pledge at the City Expo and the Simi Valley Street Fair on Saturday, October 28th at the Simi Valley Town Center. We invite everyone to stop by our Youth Services booth between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. and sign the pledge banner. Again, that is 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., Saturday, October 28th at the Simi Valley Town Center.
We are also asking everyone to wear orange on Wednesday, October 18th, in observance of National Unity Day. When we all stand up for those who are being bullied, promote kindness, be more accepting of people's differences, and make an effort to include those who are being left out, we will finally end bullying. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Good. Good job. Good job, each and every one of you guys. Good job. Good job.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 1D2, presentation of an honorary resolution commending Lodge 2492 of the Benevolent Protective Order of the Elks on its 50th anniversary, and Management Analyst Heidi DiNardo is here to present this item.
Good evening, Mayor Thomas and members of the City Council. Tonight, I'll be reading the following resolution and kindly ask that Mike Nolan please come on up to accept this resolution.
Of course.
Yeah,
Of course.
thank you. Whereas the Benevolent and Protective Order of Elks of the United States of America is one of the oldest and largest fraternal organizations in the country, and since its inception in 1868, the Order of the Elks has grown to include nearly 1 million members in its almost 2,200 communities. And whereas on September 22nd, 1973, Simi Valley Elks Lodge number 2492 was chartered with 225 members and 2 transfers, and has expanded to over 800 members strong. And whereas the Simi Valley Elks Lodge number 2492 provides scholarships to students pursuing higher education, conducts fundraising to support local organizations, and never wavers in its support of veterans. And whereas since 1917, the Benevolent and Protective Order of Elks has demonstrated its compassion for the veterans of the armed forces and their families, law enforcement, and first responders. The Elks remind us that in every state, city, town, and village in our nation, there is a hospital, nursing home, or VA medical center that houses a living veteran deserving of utmost respect, and pledged in 1946 that these veterans will never be forgotten. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of City of Simi Valley hereby commends the Benevolent and Protective Order of Elks Lodge 2492 on its 50th anniversary, and wishes to acknowledge the many contributions made by Simi Valley Elks to the residents of Simi Valley. Presented this 25th day of September 2023.
Congratulations, fellow Elk members.
Thank you. One quick thing. Something that we should be very proud of this year, for those who do not know, we raise funds to help our veterans. This year will be our second year. The Elks National Foundation will have a float in the Rose Parade. They were searching for 6 retired military individuals to be on that particular float. So we have one of our members, who's John Miller, retired Marine Corps, was chosen out of the National Data Banks to represent our lodge on that float. So come January, the Rose Bowl Parade, you will have a resident of Simi Valley on the Elks National Float. So. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 2, public statements on appointments, special presentations, and informational reports. Mr. Mayor, we have no speakers for this item this evening. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 3C1, informational presentation by Youth Council member Ethan Bott.
Good evening, Mayor Thomas and members of the City Council. Thank you for inviting me to speak and for your continued support of the Youth Council. My name is Ethan Bott, and I'm currently a freshman at Chaminade College Preparatory High School. This is my first year on the Youth Council, and I'm excited to be able to work alongside the best and brightest teens of Simi Valley and to be able to make a difference in the lives of youth in my community. Earlier this month, we held the election for our 2023 to 2024 officers. We had a very competitive election process with 11 members running for 5 leadership positions. After listening to many speeches and much deliberation, Youth Council selected Abhishek Jagannathan as Youth Council Chair, Ella McCrossan as Vice Chair, Ian Nelson as Sergeant at Arms, Annika Neddanuri as Secretary, and Jacob Salvanera as Treasurer. I want to thank all Youth Council members who ran for these positions and give a special congratulations to the members who will be serving in these positions for the remainder of the term. We continued planning for our suicide prevention rock painting night that was held this past Friday, September 22nd. We'd like to thank everyone that attended the Simi Valley Public Library for co-hosting the event with us, and to Simi Pacific Building Materials for donating their rocks for this meaningful community event. We had another great turnout with close to 300 members that participated. We would also like to thank Ventura County Supervisor Janice Parvin for attending. Youth Council members also discussed ideas for our 2023 bullying prevention campaign. We plan to coordinate a Stop Bullying pledge and invite everyone to stop by our booth at the City Expo, to be held in conjunction with the Simi Valley Chamber of Commerce's Street Fair from 9 a.m. to 4 o'clock p.m. on Saturday, October 28th at the Simi Valley Town Center. On behalf of the Youth Council, we are all very excited for the Youth Council's participation in the Rancho Simi Recreation and Park District's annual Heritage Halloween and Movie in the Park event on Saturday, October 21st. All Youth Council members expressed interest in volunteering at the event, and we encourage everyone in the public to attend as well. Please help us to spread the word about these 2 events to your friends and family so that these events can have a great community turnout. We'd like to thank Mayor Thomas for joining us at our last meeting. We enjoyed meeting and learning more about you, and as well as your guidance on making this a successful term. We also received an informative presentation by Isael Hermosillo, Conciliation Specialist with the U.S. Department of Justice, Community Relations Service, or CRS, on a program they offered called Student Problem Identification and Resolution of Issues Together, SPIRIT. CRS programs were established to help resolve and prevent community-based conflict and hate crimes related to race, color, national origin, gender identity, sexual orientation, religion, and disability. We also started brainstorming our Youth Council work plan, which will allow us to work on the identified issues. We will continue prioritizing the issues and discussing potential solutions next month. Then we'll divide and conquer, so to speak, by delegating tasks first by committees. 2 early committees were formed, the Social Media Committee and the Fundraising Committee. And they have already begun meeting to develop social media content and to work on ideas for future fundraising activities. The next Youth Council meeting will be held on Tuesday, October 3rd from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock p.m. in the City Hall Community Room. This meeting is open to the public, and we encourage everyone to attend. Also, please follow us at Simi Valley Youth Council on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Thank you, Mayor Thomas and members of the City Council, for listening. We are excited to develop and execute our 2023 to 2024 Youth Council work plan in hopes to make Simi Valley an even better place for all youth in our community. I would be happy to answer any questions you have at this time.
Councilmember Lister.
Thank you, Ethan. I do have a question. Thank you for that great presentation. The rock painting night, I sent my husband and granddaughter, and I don't think they followed instructions because they came home with their rocks. Would you share what, with the rocks, once they're completed, what was the vision? What are you doing with all the rocks that were painted?
So after so basically what we had like that night, what you're supposed to do is basically put the rocks like at this area, like it was basically on this like black area at the like right outside over there. And then we were going to hide them like across like different parts of Simi Valley. So like people who find them, like we can spread like positivity and awareness in suicide prevention.
And there's a message placed on them, the underside?
Yes. So we actually have, I can actually give them to you, or if you want to bring it, I can Mod Podge it on. But it's suicide prevention and resources. So those will be all added to the rocks that were left. Some of them already had it on. And then the artists can go hide them in the community, or they can bring them back, and Youth Council will be selecting a date and locations to spread them around and see me.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you for your report. Very good. Councilmember Lister, this is a lesson learned about sending your husband out unsupervised.
Clearly, I apologize, but he did say it was a fabulous event.
And you and all of the members of the Youth Council, keep up the good work, and I will be back.
Thank you all again, and I hope you have a great rest of your evening.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 4, public statements. During this agenda item 4, the City Council will hear public statements from the first 10 persons who have submitted speaker cards. After the first 10 persons have spoken, subsequent persons who submitted speaker cards will be called on to speak during agenda item 6, which is a continuation of agenda item number 4. Agenda items 4 and 6 are the times allotted for public statements on all items other than public hearings, appointments, and informational reports. Speakers will be called on in the order which their card was submitted to speak for this public statements item 4 for a period of no more than 3 minutes each. Persons addressing the City Council are requested to state their name and community of residence for the record. Mr. Mayor, unless you have any comments, we can begin public statements.
Please proceed.
The first speaker is Edgardo Galileo Rivas.
Today on your voicemail, you guys never answer the phone. But this is the continuation from the harassment that we're experiencing in Simi Valley, especially on Ms. Lester's zip code. And I haven't heard anything from you. So this letter, I did not edit it. I just wrote it and got copies. But I'm asking for a written answer from you guys, because Sean Centeno and Nexus needs to be investigated. I do not know if Ms. Lester has put an effort to investigate these individuals. I am a 2-time war veteran. You just took pictures with the gentleman, Mayor Thomas, but I never been helped. Never. And I fought against communism in Vietnam and San Salvador. And I'm experiencing, in Simi Valley, I'm experiencing communism. I would like for you guys, Senceros and the manager, they don't know nothing. They don't want to help me. I gave him a copy, a bundle, 124 pages, Mayor, to distribute for the manager, to distribute those 124 pages to each of you. He never did it. I don't think you know anything about my case. I'm happy for your husband to taking care of your problems with these people here, but we should care about the people. I've been here, like I told you before, Mayor, I've been here crossing this area since I was 5 years old. And I know, I'm not trying to steal any land. They're coming to me. And I want to let Mrs. Hassler know, she's involved with the Samaritan Center, the homeless, and I want to let you know the Bank of America is helping the homeless, like Mr. Huber wanted me to do. But I have 46 seconds. I would like this in writing. I want Detective Gonzalez to investigate Sean Centeno as the beginning. And Detective Gonzalez is apparently, he's below the chief. And I requested it in verbally 2 weeks ago, but now I want it in writing your decision. I mean, Mayor, Council Member Judge, ex-police department, I respect you. And I've been in the military in active wars. I don't get help. You probably remember Commander Pope. Do you? No, you don't remember her in the 70s, 73. Okay, so that's what I'm asking, Mayor and Council member that you represent our district. I need your help to get Centeno investigated, and it has to be done by the detectives. I think the police department already knows. There's one guy that's giving me a hard time in the police department. He's a young kid. He's a dispatcher. It's not going to happen. I know what he means by that. But that's what he's been telling me. It's not going to happen. Thank you, sir.
John Lapper.
Mayor Thomas and City Council. It started with Rocky Rhodes contesting this Democrat's nomination to Neighborhood Council District 4. It continued with former Mayor Mashburn saying this Democrat is not relevant in Simi Valley. It continues with T.J. McInturf, former 2020 City Simi Council candidate and now administrator of Simi Valley Community Forum, No Rules, Simi Strong Facebook group, who attempted to discredit me by approving a malicious, libelous, anonymous post which involved our Simi Valley Police Department. Fortunately, Chief Shorts contested the post as not credible. When I took issue with the post, T.J. McInturf then blocked me, censored me from the group. This toxic page continues to be the voice of Simi Valley Police Foundation Board of Director Peter Karubi, who posted LGBTQ inflammatory comments and mocked my health issues. So far, Simi Valley Police Foundation President Lee Kennedy is okay with it, as is his protected constitutional speech. Why is this relevant? September is National Suicide Awareness Month and October Bullying Prevention Month. I can assure you that teen suicide is at dangerous levels because of social media. Inflammatory posts by anonymous persons being approved on TJ's Facebook page against the homeless, immigrants, the gay community, community members, and other derogatory subjects about our city should be frowned upon and condemned. TJ McInturf and the moderators know the anonymous person's name. This Facebook page, shut down 2 years ago by Facebook, is causing such divisiveness in our community. Yesterday, local Republican organizer Delilah Orloff on TJ's Facebook page encouraged people to throw rotten eggs at me at the protest this Wednesday. I will not be silenced. This council is supposed to be nonpartisan, yet this Democrat, with the exception of Councilwoman Elena Lister, does not get answers to my emails or public statements. I will continue to express my concerns and solutions to keep Simi Valley the fine community it is. I will continue to fight for eucalyptus trees, against the cargo container policy, front yard residential parking lot policy, advocate for more motorcycle patrol officers, better traffic engineering, major road repaving, Santa Susana field lab cleanup, fiscal accountability, and city council transparency. A serious question for Councilwoman Dee Kavanaugh, which she has refused to answer so far. Why did you vote to support the RV parking changes that included moving the 50% front yard residential parking to 68% front yard parking lot without restrictions of what can be parked there? Lastly, who will be the first from this city council to hold a town hall so that the residents will have the opportunity to express their concerns? Thank you, John Lapper, Simi Valley.
Mr. Mayor, that was the last speaker. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 4A, City Council comments regarding public statements.
Councilmember Lister.
Mr. Rivas has left, I realize, but I wanted to respond that, wanted to be sure that he was aware, and I will give him a call tonight, that, that he placed a phone call to the office, and I absolutely received the message, and so staff was very good about communicating his concerns, and that I was, wanted to review his full packet before I responded and spoke with him, but I will be following up, and so, anyway, I just wanted to put that on the record that staff has been diligent, and I appreciate the conversations I've had with various staff people about his issue. So that was, just wanted to share that with him. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say thank you for everybody that spoke. And as far as town hall meetings go, last time I attended a town hall meeting put on by a city council member, I was accused of violating the Brown Act. So if anybody in this city has a group or a club or something like that, they want me to come to and talk to you about stuff going on with the city, I'm open to everything. I go to every meeting that I'm asked to go to. That's all I have to say.
All right, Mr. Rivas, is he still here? Oh, he left, okay.
He walked out.
John, that letter was inappropriate, I'm sorry. I'm surprised that he allowed that to be published. And I thought that was poor judgment and shouldn't be in social media. And I do plan on having a town hall in the not too distant future.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is public hearings. This is a time for testimony on public hearings on the consideration of matters as presented on this agenda. Let the record show that due notice was given as required by law, and an affidavit to this effect is on file in the office of the City Clerk. All comments submitted by email have already been provided to the City Council and will be made part of the record. However, they will not be read by the City Clerk this evening. Speakers will be called on in the order in which their card was submitted. For this public testimony, item 5, for a period of no more than 5 minutes each. Persons addressing the City Council are requested to state their name and community residence for the record. Comments should be limited to matters relevant to the item on the agenda and may be ruled out of order if comments are unrelated to the item. The reports of the city staff relating to these matters shall be made part of the record of this meeting. If you challenge in court any of the City Council decisions made here tonight, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised at this public hearing. The time within which judicial review must be sought is governed by California Code of Civil Procedure, Section 1094.6. A public hearing to consider city-initiated municipal code amendments Z-S-2023-0004 to establish objective design standards for developing two-unit residential developments and to establish regulations for subdividing single-family residential properties in response to State Senate Bill 9, SB 9, a determination that the amendments are exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, and introduction of an ordinance. The reading of the ordinance is as follows. Ordinance number 1352, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Simi Valley for city-initiated municipal code amendment Z-S-2023-0004 to amend portions of Title IX of the Simi Valley Municipal Code to establish objective design standards for developing two-unit residential developments and to establish regulations for subdividing single-family residential properties in response to State Senate Bill 9, SB 9, and determination that the amendments are exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, and Deputy Environmental Services Director Sean Gibson, Principal Planner Claudia Pedroso, and Associate Planner Elizabeth Richardson are here to present this item.
Good evening, Mayor Thomas and members of the City Council. Tonight's item is to consider the permanent ordinance to what's known as SB 9 or Senate Bill 9, which allows two primary dwellings on single-family properties. Our current interim ordinance expires this December. This permanent ordinance being considered will extend local control as allowed by state law to ensure that certain local standards such as setbacks, parking, and building design are maintained. To date, we've received dozens of inquiries on SB 9, a handful of SB 9 building applications, and to date, so far, no building permits issued on SB 9 units. To make the presentation will be Associate Planner Elizabeth Richardson.
Good evening. Tonight we will be reviewing an ordinance to amend portions of the municipal code to establish objective development and design standards in response to SB 9. Senate Bill 9 is a housing law that allows property owners to develop a single-family lot with up to 2 primary dwelling units and 2 accessory dwelling units for a total of 4 units. Using SB 9, properties may also be divided into 2 individual lots. Though SB 9 limits local agencies' ability to restrict 2-unit residential development in urban lot splits, it does give cities local control to establish objective zoning, design, and subdivision standards to guide development. SB 9 was signed by the governor in September of 2021 and was effective on January 1st, 2022. To have regulations in place before the law was effective, the City Council adopted Urgency Ordinance 1331 on December 20th of 2021 and Interim Ordinance 1335 on January 24th, 2022. For the last year, staff has been using the interim ordinance to review proposed SB 9 development on lots throughout the city. In preparation of writing the permanent ordinance, staff presented a discussion item to the Planning Commission on April 26, 2023, for guidance on parking, open space, unit sizes, and expanding existing single-family residences with SB 9 development. On August 9th, 2023, the Planning Commission reviewed the permanent ordinance and made a recommendation of approval to the City Council. SB 9 is different from an ADU in that an SB 9 unit is a primary dwelling unit similar to a single-family residence. In Simi Valley, the SB 9 unit will have a separate utilities as well as a separate address, whereas an ADU and a JADU are dwellings accessory to a primary dwelling unit. In Simi Valley, an ADU has utilities shared with the primary dwelling unit and does not have a separate address. When a property is developed with 2 SB 9 units, each primary unit is eligible to have 1 ADU or JADU for a total of 4 dwelling units on the property. To be eligible for SB 9 development, a property must be located in an urbanized area that has a single-family zoning. The property must be located outside the very high fire hazard zones, flood zones, fault zones, and wildlife corridors, unless development is approved by the building official or the public works director. The existing home cannot be an income-restricted affordable housing unit, and the residence cannot have been rented in the last 3 years. Finally, no more than 25% of the existing home may be demolished. This is a map of the city showing the areas of the very high fire hazard zone, which is shown on the map in red, the wildlife corridors, which are shown on the map in green. The Alquist-Priola Fault Zone is this hatched line located across the northern portion of the city. In blue is the flood zones. The purple are portions of the city where SB 9 development is not eligible. And where SB 9 development is potentially eligible are the hatched areas in orange. Two-unit residential development is defined as 2 primary dwelling units located on a single lot and using the state government code provisions that established SB 9 development. SB 9 gives cities specific requirements for 2-unit residential development, but also gives cities flexibility to implement their own objective design standards as long as they do not restrict 2 800-square-foot units from being constructed on the property. The state requires the rear and side yard setbacks to be 4 feet maximum, and the state also restricts cities from requiring more than 1 parking space per unit unless the property is located within a half mile of a high-quality transit corridor where no parking can be required. In Simi Valley, the high-quality transit corridor is the Metrolink train station. The building official may deny SB 9 development based on evidence that the development would have a specific adverse impact on public health and safety or physical environment, and which there is no feasible method to satisfactorily mitigate or avoid the impact. Rental units must be for a term longer than 30 days, and if the property is subdivided using SB 9, the property owner is required to use a unit as a primary residence for a minimum of 3 years. And this exhibit shows the half-mile radius around the Metrolink train station where SB 9 development would not be required to provide a 1-car garage. There are many configurations of residential units that could occur to have SB 9 development on the property. These are 2 examples. In the first picture, the primary dwelling units are designed as 2 separate buildings and 1 detached ADU is located at the rear of the lot for a total of 3 units. In the second scenario, the front primary dwelling unit has an attached JADU, and the second primary dwelling unit is detached and located in the rear of the property for a total of 3 dwelling units. An urban lot split is a land division for 2 lots and references state development code sections that established SB 9 development. Subdivision of an SB 9 eligible property is by a ministerial tentative parcel map that does not require a public hearing. A total of 2 lots may be created, and a minimum lot size of 1,200 square feet is required. The lot split ratio must also be a minimum of a 40% 60% split. To be eligible for an urban lot split, the original lot can have a maximum of 2 dwelling units, and this would result in each lot having 2 units for a maximum of 4 units total. Finally, the urban lot split can only happen one time, and the owner cannot split adjacent properties. This slide shows 2 possible lot split scenarios. The first exhibit splits a lot so that each property has direct access to the street, and the second scenario has created a flag lot to provide access to the rear lot. Again, these are just 2 possible examples, and there are many other configurations that could divide the property. The permanent SB 9 ordinance will help the city meet Housing Element Program 16, which has the objective to maintain sites for all income groups throughout the city. The housing element refers to this type of development as missing middle housing, which refers to small-scale multifamily housing that can range from duplexes to townhouses to smaller apartment buildings that are compatible in size with single-family neighborhoods. SB 9 will help meet this objective by providing opportunities for small-scale, moderate-income housing within the city. The proposed permanent ordinance will codify objective zoning, design, and subdivision standards into the municipal code. While the majority of the interim ordinance will become part of the permanent ordinance, modifications were made to parking, open space, unit sizes, setbacks, and non-conforming structures. To accomplish this, changes will be made to the zoning code sections, including adding a new use type, introduction of new development standards and subdivision requirements, adding a new non-conforming section, as well as 3 definitions. The new use type 2-unit residential development will be allowed in all zones that permit single-family residences. The permanent ordinance establishes development requirements including setbacks, building separation, height limits, and parking. Setbacks for development maintain a 20-foot front yard setback. However, state law established reduced rear and side yard setbacks to 4 feet for single-story structures. For 2-story structures, the ordinance will require a 10-foot side yard setback and 20-foot rear yard setback. Building height for a single-story structure is limited to 18 feet, and a 2-story structure is limited to 30 feet. Garage parking will be required for each primary dwelling unit inside an individual 1-car garage. State law allows cities to adopt objective design standards for SB 9 development. The permanent ordinance will adopt architectural review standards, which will require additions and new construction to be architecturally compatible with the existing residence or with surrounding houses. Roofing must match the roof material of the house or adjacent residences, and color materials are to complement the existing development, and shiny or reflective materials are prohibited. At the April 26 Planning Commission meeting, staff asked for direction on objective zoning requirements for open space, parking, unit sizes, and additions to nonconforming structures. The permanent ordinance was updated to reflect the direction received, and in addition to setbacks for 1- and 2-story structures, were also modified to be consistent with single-family residential requirements that are already in the zoning ordinance. A new addition to the ordinance is a requirement for open space. Each primary residential unit will be required to have a 200-square-foot open space that is designed as a continuous space in the shape of a square, rectangle, or similar shape. This space must be located outside of the setbacks, and in this exhibit, we show a possible situation where SB 9 development with 4 residential units could potentially not provide adequate open space. The open space requirement would require usable open space to be incorporated into the site design. The interim ordinance requires garage parking, but the existing two-car garage could be shared. The permanent ordinance has been modified to require each primary dwelling unit to have an individual single-car garage. These are three possible scenarios for providing individual garage spaces for SB 9 units. In the first and second illustration, a new single-car garage could be placed in the rear yard with driveway access from the street. In the third scenario, a new two-car garage could be constructed with a solid dividing wall to create two individual garages, each complying with the single-car garage dimension of 12 feet wide by 20 feet deep. In all three scenarios, the front yard landscaping requirements must be maintained. State law allows cities to establish objective zoning standards to regulate the size of the dwelling units exceeding 800 square feet. In response, the interim ordinance allows larger units on larger lots, but capped SB 9 unit sizes to 1,200 square feet for lots over 8,000 square feet. The permanent ordinance has been updated to allow lots over 20,000 square feet to have a 2,000 square foot SB 9 unit. State law also established four-foot rear and side yard setbacks for single-story SB 9 units. The city has used objective design standards to allow the two-story SB 9 units to have greater setbacks similar to single-family development. The permanent ordinance will require a 10-foot side yard setback and 20-foot rear yard setback if a two-story SB 9 unit is proposed. And the Planning Commission recommends the City Council introduce ordinance ZS 2023-0004 and make a determination the amendments are exempt from CEQA. And this concludes staff's presentation, and we are available for questions.
Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Quick question, Elizabeth. I probably missed it in the report. What is the required setback from the front of the house?
SB 9 front yard setback is 20 feet.
Thank you.
Regardless if it's 1 or 2 stories.
Okay, I had somebody comment and I said, no, I don't think so.
Okay.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Clarification on that, if it was just an ADU, the setback is what? Under 800 square feet.
Under 800 square feet, an ADU single story has a 0-foot front yard setback.
So that
And those
still
are-
exists.
And those are two different ordinances
Right.
and two different state laws, right?
Okay, that's what they were asking
That's
about.
what they were asking.
Councilmember Lutster.
Thank you. I had a couple questions in advance I wanted to ask, and you answered several things, but then two more came up while you were speaking. So let me ask the ones initially that came up while you were speaking. You gave that map, and maybe you could put it up, which showed where SB 9 was applicable and where it wasn't. And it showed fire hazards, earthquake fault line, et cetera, et cetera. You referenced that zoning districts unaffected by SB 9 were the purple. Is that because, I just want to be sure I understood what you were saying by that. Is that because those are commercial, or what is it about the purple districts?
Right, so the purple zones are areas where SB 9 development is not allowed. So these would be our commercial zones, industrial zones, and high-density residential zones.
Got it. Okay, I just wanted to confirm what that purple meant.
Right.
Okay, thank you. The second thing that came up, you mentioned if it was subdivided for 3 years, let me see if I can read my own notes, that they had, this is subdivided versus not subdivided. I know that there's a requirement of 3 years residency. Does that apply to both when it's subdivided or when simply 2 units are built? Is that question making any sense?
It is. I want to check the ordinance really quick. It does, so state law, if a property is subdivided, state law requires that the property owner occupy one of the units on the property.
Got it.
For a minimum of 3 years. And that could be one of the SB 9 units, that could be the ADU, or if they decided to construct a JADU, they could live in the JADU and rent out the other unit.
Got it. And that's if it's subdivided. But if it is not subdivided and you put 2 units on there, does that no longer apply? Or is that also part? of the requirement?
I think it applies.
I believe that's the section that was added at the local level.
In other words, not subdivided, but
Right, so not subdivided with SB 9, it's in the interim ordinance.
If it's not subdivided, then you would be building an ADU. If,
no,
No, if you were to subdivide, you would, if you didn't subdivide and you wanted to do SB 9 development with a property that's developed with one single-family residence, you're still eligible to build an SB 9 unit, so another primary residence, and each primary residence will each get either an ADU or a JADU for a total of 4 units.
but you don't have to subdivide. So my question is does the 3-year requirement apply if you don't do an official lot split, basically?
So we use the objective zoning standards that the state of California gave us the ability to use to require that if you do SB 9 development without a lot split, we still require the property owner to occupy the property for a minimum of 3 years.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. And then just a follow-up question, and I've had conversations with some about that. How do we monitor, regulate, how do we verify that someone really is living there for 3 years or not violating that, just coming in, swooping and buying the property, building things, and then leaving? How do we monitor that? How
That's
do
a
we-
really good question, Councilman Lister. So they are required to file an affidavit, but there's really no means to go and find out if they're living there or not, and that's actually a discussion that is at the state level, trying to figure out how we can. There's no deed restrictions, so it's really hard to go and enforce it, but that's supposed to be the requirement.
Got it. So could we, as a council, decide that we want Chief Shorts and his, I'm kidding, he's just standing there in the back, but someone on his force to do an annual checkup to see if they still live there? Do we have that authority, ability?
it would probably end up being a code enforcement action to verify that. I will tell you, it's probably very labor intensive to do.
Of course.
But Sean, would they be filing an annual affidavit?
It's a one-time affidavit.
Can we ask them to file an annual affidavit?
We certainly can.
I don't know.
It certainly can. It is very labor intensive. Staff
Okay.
would also have to do an annual monitoring. If we go down that route, I think, again, it's very, very hard to enforce. I would almost say it's the honor system. And to answer your earlier question, page 32, section K is the property ownership requirement for the non-subdivision provision.
Okay, thank you. And one final question, and this has, I'm reading in the report, this is page 2, and maybe this is a question for our attorney. It says, it should be noted that this permanent ordinance will help the city meet the objectives of Housing Element Program 16, which has the objective to maintain sites for all income groups throughout the city. SB 9 will help meet this objective by providing opportunities for moderate income housing, missing middle, et cetera, and you referenced that in your report. And above, I don't necessarily see how this suddenly provides affordable housing. I think we currently have a lawsuit right now against, about SB 9, and so I'm just wondering if this statement is invalidating our lawsuit or whether it coexists. How does that work?
Well, I think that's a very good observation. And yes, pending civil litigation does take issue with the stated purpose, as you just identified, which is affordable housing, and its lack of reference anywhere within SB 9. But as far as I'm concerned, what's before you tonight will not impede the city's ability to proceed, will not impede the city's position on appeal.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
And just real quickly, your reference on the yearly thing, state law requires 3 years, but if you want to be stricter, you can make a request and make a change in the ordinance.
Interesting. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Rhodes, did you have more? It's still on here? Okay. Go ahead.
On the open space, I'm afraid that I read it a couple of times and I watched your presentation and I'm not 100% sure on the slide that you indicated with the open space whether that worked or didn't work. It looked like there was about 700 square feet of continuous open space. Help me understand that slide and what the requirements are, please.
So in this slide, this is an example of a site. This is actually an example of a site plan that we received to review where they were proposing all 4 units, and what we noticed is that there wasn't a space, really a usable space for each dwelling unit to have outdoor living space. My question to residents as they're designing this is, where are you going to put your barbecue? So the 200 square feet, that's a minimum size that each SB9 unit, so the SB9 unit, and you'd also have to design it for the single-family residents, to each have a 200 square foot patio space per se, to be able to have your barbecue, have your patio furniture, maybe put up a swing set if you've got little kids. But I see what you're saying as you look at this, but the way we've also written this is that they can't have their open space in the area that is the setbacks. So if it's single story, they can't they can't use the 4-foot rear yard setback or 4-foot side yard setback or front yard setback to say this is where my usable open space is. So it's really driving the site design to make sure that at the end of the day, we have something that's livable.
And that would include then the 10-foot setback between the single-family residence and the next units. They couldn't use that space.
The ordinance specifically says the setbacks. It doesn't talk about the building separation.
All right.
That is some, you know, through council's comments, that is something we could potentially modify.
Oh, I'm happy with that. I didn't understand it, but I'm now happy with it.
Okay.
And to Councilwoman Litzter's question, and I think it's one that we should be considering is finding a way of policing the owner occupancy requirement. And if there's only going to be a handful in town, then it's not that, it's an administrative hassle, but not overwhelming. If it's going to be every lot, then obviously we have another issue.
Okay. At this time, I would like to open the hearing for anyone in the city council chambers wishing to be heard on this matter.
Mr. Mayor, we have no speaker cards for this item.
None?
Mr. John Lapper raised his hand. I think he intended to fill out a speaker card.
We have to come to the dais. Any statements have to be made on the dais.
I would just be curious if utility bills be required to verify usage of the property or that you're having it.
That would work. Right, well, I guess staff is not going to, does staff want to respond to any of the comments from council?
I think like we said earlier, it'd be very difficult to enforce ownership occupancy verification. Again, it can be labor intensive. You know, there's every single family property in the city becomes SB9. That would create a huge burden. If it's under our current rate, it'd be a lot fewer units, but still, just to confirm that is a very difficult process.
Okay. All right, the hearing is now closed. Any further comments or questions from city council members? Councilmember Rhodes?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to say to staff, prior to my joining the council, that urgency ordinance was brilliant. I think that having SB9 forced upon us from Sacramento was a massive overreach, and the way the city responded was fast, appropriate, gallant, and then the continuing of the urgency ordinance gave us breathing room to come up with this permanent ordinance. And what was written and presented to us was fantastic. I thought it was well thought out. It looks out for the best interest of the city. Our goal should be to claw back or keep as much local control as possible on what gets developed. And this ordinance is a huge, huge step in making that happen. Your Stratis, your objection or your concern about the labor required for oversight of builder residents, notwithstanding, I think that is yet another tool that we can use to make sure that we have and maintain some sort of control that developers don't swoop in, tie up properties, and then create an even worse housing problem for us by creating market rate units that that don't help the missing middle or our lower income property seekers. So I think it's a burden, but a useful thing to watch out for. And Councilwoman Lister, thank you so much, because I had the same question of, were we shooting ourselves in the foot by passing this on the lawsuit? And I'm glad to see that would not. And I would, just to make doubly sure, make any reference to affordable, which I don't think I read in there, but if it was in there, let's remove that. I don't have any other comments at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Lister.
Thank you. I will concur with Councilmember Rhodes that I think that this was well thought out and well constructed. I understand that we've put a lot of scenarios to you, and you've been given a lot of scenarios, I'm sure, at the counter that you've had to decide and make and work in, and look very carefully at. I concur that I don't think, I understand the purpose, but I don't think this guarantees affordability in any way. It just allows for potentially more units. And my concern, of course, is that we maintain the flavor of our neighborhood and community. And I want to be sure that if this is used, it is done so by residents, people who own property and desire to make these changes for themselves, family, whatever. And so I concur that if this is to be used, I really don't want developers saying, this is a great chance, I'll buy this, throw my nephew there for a few months, get it built, and then go on. And so if there is a way to make sure the 3-year is adhered to, I understand previous to living there, it is well, let me, maybe this is a question now. If they have lived there 3 years before applying for this change, does that satisfy, and then they can make the change and then leave, or do they have to still live there 3 more years?
The current, if I want to reopen the hearing, but the current owner of the property must live there 3 years after the home is built or after they create the SB9 unit
After it's been, okay.
on one of the lots.
So what? So it can't have been a rental for 3 years before. But what you're telling me, and I'm sorry, I know this is not time for questions, but what you're telling me is that if they owned it for 3 years previous and then decided to be doing SB9, they needed to remain there for 3 more years. Okay, excellent. And I understand that would be a bit of a paperwork nightmare. Although I do think Mr. Lapper's suggestion, even by verifying with electrical utility, that could be done annually or something as well, as potentially with Nate.
Just having developers on notice that we're going to watch might solve the problem before it begins. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, understood. Anyway, so really nothing more to add other than to say that thank you. I think this is well thought out, and I appreciate that you've really worked to have positive, objective design standards that maintain our community the best that we can, given our removal of some of our local controls. So thank you.
I'm simply going to thank staff for their work on this. Thank you very much. I will now entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move to introduce ordinance number 1352, amending portions of Title IX of the Simi Valley Municipal Code, Z-S-2023-0004, to establish objective design standards for developing 2-unit residential developments and to establish regulations for subdividing single-family residential properties in response to State Senate Bill 9, and a determination that the amendments are exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act.
Second.
Call for a vote.
The motion passes Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 7, the consent calendar, and there are 3 resolutions for your consideration this evening. Consent item 8, resolution number 2023-41, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Simi Valley authorizing the execution of the recipient certifications and assurances for the California Department of Transportation State of Good Repair Program funded by Senate Bill 1, SB 1 for fiscal year 2023-24. Consent item 9, resolution number 2023-42, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Simi Valley adopting program supplement number F047 REV.1 to the administering agency state agreement number 07-5405F15 for preliminary engineering services for widening of Barnard Street Bridge, federal and project number BHLS-5405075, and consent item 10, resolution number 2023-43, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Simi Valley authorizing the city manager to execute and submit applications and related agreements to the California Department of Resources Recycling and Recovery, CalRecycle, for the rubberized pavement grant program.
Councilmember Lister.
I would like to just have a brief discussion on items 4 and 7, but would be happy to make a motion to approve items 1 through 10, accepting 4 and 7.
Second.
Call for a vote.
The motion passes unanimously.
Discussion on item 4.
Thank you. When I read item 4, I was amazed that we just received a $7 million grant, basically. And I just find it very, very commendable that we are applying for grants of this stature and receiving them. But wanted to just understand just a little bit more about the time frame and how staff intends to utilize these funds in what order, in what is the plan of attack?
We asked Ben Gonzalez to come down. He's our Deputy Director for Transit. It will be, at least on the construction side, it will take a while. A lot of planning involved for a transit center that we were proposing at the southwest corner of Avenida Simi and Tapo Canyon Road, and quite frankly, the council hasn't approved that yet, but.
Okay, so this is
But it's
something
in
we
the
haven't
planning
approved, but we're
stages.
going to talk about it because we've got lots of money for it.
Yeah, we got money for it. Go ahead.
As far as timeline goes, we still have to get that finalized by the state, and that's not going to happen until December. And then once we finalize the grant, probably another 2-3 months, and then we go through the planning phase for the transit center like we're talking about. As far as vehicles, the ones you saw in there, that's going to take, once we decide what type of vehicles we're going to get, we're probably talking 14 months from the time we order.
So is there a sunset clause on the use of these grant funds? I mean, in other words, can we take 10 years, 5 years to get this done, or have they intimated a?
I'm not sure. Typically, 3 to 5 years is we're looking at. We need to get the funds done. We have to, at least the first year, show movement, action that we have plans in place to spend the funds on what project. That's the key to get that moving. And then planning phase, about 3 to 5 years. Not exactly sure, but that's about as much time as we can take.
Got it. And so this is $7 million from the state.
Right.
Another $1 million that comes from
That's our local match.
our local match.
Our TDA funds, correct.
Got it. Okay. And this will basically is to be used for design of this transit center, park and ride, 2 charging stations, 3 electric vehicle buses. Is my memory correct?
6.
I'm sorry, 6
vehicles.
6 vehicles. I'm sorry, I'm doing
Yeah,
I
and
should
then the
look.
transit center, and then 2 en route chargers at the transit center and the park and ride, correct?
Okay.
Did I get everything?
Okay.
Checking.
Okay. Thank you. I
That was the
I just wanted to kind of discuss the breadth of this because I thought it was really
Right.
big.
The first phase will be to work on design everything, the transit center, and then do some more research on the vehicles, and then go from there. So we're going to kind of do them in 2 phases.
And to Brian's point, we get to look at that design before.
You'll see it way in advance.
I just, okay. Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay.
And
I do want to note that although we're crawling to the finish line on purchasing of electric buses because we're not quite sure the technology is completely there yet. But the federal government is requiring us to continue to move down this path. So at least we've got the funding in place should we get there. As Mayor Pro Tem Judge has indicated that hydrogen buses seem to be something that's working a whole lot better.
And can these funds be transitioned to that?
There's zero emission, is that correct? They don't have to be electric, but they just have to be zero emission. Correct.
So we could use
So
these
we're
funds.
continue to look at that option.
Okay, excellent. Okay. Thank you. And then I had just a quick question on item 7, which is based.
Well, real quick, any other comments on
I'm sorry.
4? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, apologies. Item 7 has to do with basically piggybacking and doing additional traffic striping throughout our community, correct, for about the tune of about $400,000. My question is actually, I know simultaneously what's happening right now is also a bicycle study or bike routes or et cetera. And it seems to me that some of that striping should address biking issues on our roads, and whether even we look at green paint that some of the communities use for their bike lanes, et cetera. Is that, I guess, do those studies, is that study far enough along in the process that any of these funds would help be used for that purpose, or is this just totally independent of what might be occurring there and just fixing what's already in place?
It's really fixing what's already in place. I don't think it was intended to address the paths that would be identified in the bicycle master plan. We're not there yet, are we, Ron? No. Yeah. So we're still developing the bicycle master plan. I will note those green things you see in other communities. Those are actually iron-ons. I mean, in the simplest terms, they're not paint.
Got it.
They're appliques, which are.
So Ron's willing to go out and iron them on when the time comes?
Yes,
Okay.
so he's volunteered to do that. But this is really just to address our striping that's in place now.
And to repair what's currently.
So striping that's old, faded.
Yes.
Yeah.
Got it. Very good. Okay, thank you. I'd be happy to move passage of 4 and 7.
Second.
Call for a vote.
The motion passes unanimously. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 9A, adoption of a resolution confirming costs expended in the abatement of a public nuisance on residential property located at 5933 East Fastley Avenue, and authorization for the potential placement of a special assessment on the county tax roll to recover costs. The reading of the resolution is as follows. Resolution number 2023-44, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Simi Valley confirming costs expended in the abatement of a public nuisance on a single-family residential property within the city, and authorization for the potential placement of a special assessment on the county tax roll to recover costs. And Deputy Environmental Services Director Mara Mulch and Code Compliance Manager Nancy Cole are here to present this item.
Good evening, Mayor Thomas and members of the City Council. From April 2022 to May 2023, city staff received numerous complaints regarding the condition of a property located at 5933 East Fastley Avenue. The conditions included general property maintenance violations and a stagnant pool and spa, which can be a breeding ground for mosquitoes. Mosquitoes may carry a vector-borne disease known as West Nile virus that can be detrimental to the safety and welfare of residents. Extensive yet unsuccessful attempts were made to locate and notify the property owner, including sending notifications by certified mail and posting the property in an effort to gain voluntary compliance. Due to the ongoing violations, city staff executed an abatement warrant in June 2023 to abate the public nuisance on the property, which cost the city $12,750.09 for the actual abatement and administrative costs. Prior to the issuance of the letter and invoice of cost, the property owner contacted staff and provided his current contact information. Therefore, an itemized account of the abatement costs and administrative expenses were served on June 28, 2023, together with a notice of the time when such costs would be heard by the City Council if payment was not received within 30 days of the servicing. The letter and invoice were served upon the property owner via certified return receipt requested and first-class mail and by electronic mail as requested by the property owner. Section 5-36.117 of the Simi Valley Municipal Code sets forth the authority for the City Council to confirm, modify, correct, or revise the cost of abatement to allow city staff to place a notice of lien on the property to recoup the city's cost to abate the public nuisance. Should the lien not be paid in full by June 1st, 2024, city staff will request the County of Ventura's Auditor Controller's Office to place a special assessment on the tax rolls for the property. At that time, city staff will request a release of lien. There are additional costs associated with placing a lien, converting a lien to a special assessment, and for releasing a lien. As of September 18th, 2023, 2 payments have been received from the property owner. However, the full amount of the cost has not been recovered to date. The violations have not reoccurred, and it appears that the property is being improved further. Staff is recommending that the City Council adopt a resolution confirming abatement costs and authorizing the placement of a lien with conversion to a special assessment, if necessary, to fully recover costs. This concludes staff's report, and we would be happy to respond to any questions you may have.
Councilmember Rhodes.
Thank you. Right there towards the end, you started to address one of the questions that I had. I saw in the report there were payments made in a really arbitrary amount. I couldn't figure out what they were paying. It didn't add up to any of the invoiced amounts. Did they ask for any type of payment plan, or they just sent a couple of payments and we haven't heard any more from them?
They did request a payment plan from the Administrative Services Department, who oversees our general billing, which is the method in which we had to invoice the property owner. However, if we had been consulted, we would not have consented to the payment plan because it was an improvement of a real property, and so therefore that property could be sold before costs are recouped, and the city may never see those costs returned to the city.
Got it. Thank you.
Councilmember Litster.
And I think my questions are a continuation of Councilmember Rhodes. So they paid $2,125. I guess my concern is that he was served notice on June 28th, 23, so basically the 1st of July, a couple days before July, and he was told that he basically had 30 days to come up with $12,700 plus dollars. And I don't know, and that just seems like a chunk of money to be expected for someone to come up with in 1 month's time. And I understand the concern that we want to be sure we get the money back, and that, and so he made 2 payments, or 1 payment, 2 payments.
He made 2 payments.
He made 2 payments. Was he then told, sorry, you haven't come up with the $13,000 a month's time, so we're going to lien your property, or?
So he was fully informed of tonight's meeting and what the process would be before he sought a payment plan. Our city's standard invoices say to contact the originating department to discuss options. He contacted our Administrative Services Department and did not inform code enforcement he was seeking a payment plan. So he was informed that this process would be happening as of tonight. Pending council action, staff has not yet followed up to inform him that the payment plan would no longer be honored. However, he stated full intention to pay when corresponding with Nancy prior to requesting a payment plan. So the information and correspondence from the property owner directly to code enforcement has not exactly been consistent with his request for the payment plan, nor were we notified that a payment plan existed until we prepared the staff report for tonight's meeting.
I think, just as a note, they're not mutually exclusive. So I think we want to protect ourselves by putting the lien on the property. Once the lien is in place, he can continue to make payments and pay it off, and we will release the lien.
I guess and I like that. My concern is that authorizing a lien adds an additional $500 to the cost, at least, if I read the report correctly. So we're basically up in 1 month, we're basically adding another $500 to it.
there's a cost to us to put the lien on.
I get it, I get it. It just, I guess, what I'm struggling with is that he reached out to make payment plans, and I understand he didn't reach out to the right department, but it feels almost as if internally, the city should have said, wait a minute, this is a code action, talk to them, and then we'll give it to you. So to me, I don't know that I fault him
There's no
completely.
reason why he would have contacted that department unless, we offer payment plans to people that fall behind on their water bills.
Okay,
Perhaps there was a belief that it was the same area, but our code have been in contact with him on numerous occasions for him to make the payments without success.
And just to clarify, he was informed in writing prior to requesting the payment plan that this was the process, and if full payment had not been received by tonight's meeting, that this would be the action that staff was taking. The other thing I want to clarify is that when we've had the change in our various systems between our EnerGov, which is our land use management system that dovetails into Munis, which is our financial management system that are owned by the same parent company, code enforcement no longer does general billing on a regular basis as we were under our prior system. So this was something that fell through the cracks and has already been rectified internally, so it won't happen again. So this is the only instance of something like this occurring with such a large amount due with regards to the city already expending the money to improve a physical asset that somebody else owns, which is why we go through this process as opposed to the abatement, or as opposed to a payment plan. He could sell that asset at any time, and the city would be at a loss to be able to recoup taxpayer dollars that have already been spent to improve his property.
I understand that. I understand that. I guess my concern is just the time frame we gave him to pay that back, and the fact that it feels like internally the errors occurred, and
Well,
I don't follow him.
I would argue that the time frame started when we said, hey, fix the problem, and he didn't.
That's fair enough.
That's when it started.
Well, and my question would be, it doesn't take 30 days for a pool to get stagnant like that. It took longer.
Right.
So originally, the notification was April of '22 that we started receiving complaints. I've seen a pool that happens to, and it takes a while.
Was he notified, just so I understand, was he notified right before the cleanup action was taken that we are going to be coming in 30 days if it doesn't immediately get resolved?
So the court requires that we serve notice upon the property owner, so we followed all the legal constraints that are set in place for inspection and abatement warrants. He was difficult to locate. It's not his primary residence. It was being rented out to another individual. And additionally, he does have the opportunity to pay this, as the city manager indicated. They're not mutually exclusive processes. If he doesn't pay by June of 2024, then it will be converted into a special assessment and placed on the tax roll. In order for us to meet the county's deadlines, we have to do this in this time
Got
period.
it.
So we would
Okay.
miss the opportunity and then have to wait a whole nother tax roll cycle in order to place a future lien and then convert to a special assessment. So unfortunately, the timing requires that we do this in advance. But if he were to pay between now and June 24th, we would, June 21st?
June 1st.
June 1st of 2024, then we would not convert to a special assessment. We would not place it on his property taxes. So it's just safeguarding our ability to have another method to collect in the future.
Got it. And he will be notified that an action has taken place and that he can continue to make payments, but it needs to be done by that date. Is that correct?
We will notify him of what all the thresholds are and the process in which for us to be able to release the lien upon full payment. So we will be contacting him at the end of tonight, depending on the action the council takes, then we'll be reaching out to him directly and explaining. And if for some reason he's able to pay the full amount, then we would never place the lien to begin with. You know, so this is just authorizing us to be able to move forward within the time constraints that the county requires for this type of action to recoup
Okay,
the expenditures already spent.
got it.
Mr. Mayor, I'm ready to make a motion.
Go ahead.
Move the city council adopt resolution number 2023-44, confirming the abatement costs and authorizing the placement of liens and/or special assessments to fully recover costs.
Second.
Call for the vote.
The motion passes unanimously. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 9B, adoption of a resolution approving transfer of ownership and the amended and restated affordable housing agreement between the City of Simi Valley and Haywood Gardens LP, AHA-2023-0002, adjusting area median income levels and extending the period of affordability. The reading of the resolution is as follows. Resolution number 2023-45, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Simi Valley authorizing the transfer of ownership and approving the amended and restated affordable agreement between the City of Simi Valley and Haywood Gardens LP AHA 2023-0002, and Deputy Environmental Services Director Mara Mulch and the Manager Analyst Daniel Franco are here to present this item.
Good evening, Mayor Thomas and members of the City Council. In January 2023, Haywood Gardens LP expressed interest in purchasing the Haywood Gardens Apartments, a 75-unit apartment complex located at 1770 Haywood Street, from the current owner, California Elderly Housing Incorporated. The city entered into an affordable housing agreement with California Elderly Housing Incorporated in June 1991, which regulates the terms of affordability for 74 affordable units designated for very low-income households consisting of seniors or individuals with disabilities with up to 50% of the area median income, or AMI. The term of the current affordable housing agreement concludes in November 2033. On September 11, 2023, the city held a Tax Equity and Fiscal Responsibility Act of 1983, or TEFRA, hearing to authorize the issuance of a bond to finance the ownership transfer and the rehabilitation of all of the dwelling units. As a result of the terms of the financing, Haywood Gardens LP has requested the city to authorize the change in ownership and make modifications to the affordable housing agreement to align the term of affordability and the AMI levels with the terms of the new financing. The current affordable housing agreement requires the city to approve the transfer of ownership. The assignment and assumption agreement documents the transfer and that Haywood Gardens LP will assume all responsibilities contained within the current affordable housing agreement, which will also grant the authority for Haywood Gardens LP to enter into the amended and restated affordable housing agreement with the city. Both actions are required as conditions of the financing prior to the close of escrow, which is anticipated on October 6, 2023. The project will continue to support the existing households with HUD project-based vouchers and will be subject to all HUD terms and conditions. Currently, the majority of residents are in the extremely low-income category of up to 30% AMI. Residents will continue to only be required to pay 30% of their income towards rent. The request to modify the affordable housing agreement income limit from 50% to 60% of AMI will allow for additional housing stability for any households on the cusp of the next income bracket. The modification will not affect any current tenants in a negative manner and may create additional housing opportunities for other residents. Additionally, the new financing has an affordability period concluding on December 1st, 2043. As such, the city's affordable housing agreement has been amended to reflect the additional 10 years of affordability. Therefore, it is recommended that the City Council adopt a resolution approving transfer of ownership and the amended and restated affordable housing agreement, adjusting AMI levels and extending the period of affordability. This concludes the presentation. Staff is available for questions.
Councilmember Lidster.
Thank you. I just wanted some clarification on the agreement. I'm looking at, well, first of all, there was some discrepancy in my mind whether this applies for age 62 or age 55 and older. Your staff report says age 62. The amendment transfer application says age 55. If you go to page 42 of our staff report, it says, if you look down, project information, location, et cetera, and then see affordable term, check marked as 55 years. So is it age 55 and older or 62?
Age 62, but I'm trying to find where the 55 reference is. In which agreement? You said the affordable.
Well, this is on my the report that I have, page 41 and 42. Is Affordable Housing Agreement Amendment / Transfer Application. It has the owner applicant information, has the organization background, see attached, and then project.
Oh, that's affordable term. That's the term, 55 years, not age.
Okay, so that I just, okay, so is that the term, the length of the?
The original plan.
The original.
Okay, okay, so it is age 62. Then the question, though, that followed up with that is one of, this is not just for for seniors, it is also for the disabled.
Correct. You could be a senior or disabled.
And it references that very well in the report. Again, looking at the project information, I see rental, senior, age restricted. I guess I would have expected other disabled to also be checked or something. I don't see where it is referenced in, again.
Page 13, 1.17, where income limits, age,
No,
disability
and
status.
right, and I know it's listed there. I guess my question, does it need to be also listed in the Affordable Housing Agreement transfer application?
So not in the transfer application, in the affordable housing, the amended and restated, so we're replacing the entire prior. It is in there. Let me just find the section that would
And
be
I
in.
did see it there. I guess I
So
was,
the application was from the applicant. This is a pretty complex financing project that involves multiple entities. So a lot of the key partners that are currently involved in the project are also involved in the new ownership. This was prepared by one member of the team.
Got it.
So we are not bound to their application. We are bound to the assignment and assumption, which means we're recognizing the new owner, and then the terms of the new amended and restated affordable agreement. So if there's any concerns with what's in the amended and restated agreement, then that's where we should focus any
Got
time
it.
and energy on clarifying.
okay, wonderful. And help me understand, I know you're going from 50% of AMI to, which is considered very low, to 60%. Is that by standards? I mean, I know that's a small difference. I understand it just allows for a little more protection so people don't age or don't bump out or whatever. Is that still considered very low? I'm just curious what the standard is.
So state statute describes very low as the 50% and below, and low is from, I believe it's the 80% and below. Is that correct?
I think so.
So 60% doesn't have its own threshold definition under state code.
Okay.
But by and large, the first important thing is it will not displace any of the existing residents. So no existing residents. What it may do is open a future housing opportunity for a household that otherwise would have too much income. And then we do have a number of residents throughout the community in income restricted units that often call to ask how much they can make each year in order to maintain their housing. So from a staff perspective, it doesn't affect our RENA numbers. It doesn't affect anything in a negative and adverse way. All it does is kind of open up that income bracket, but there's no anticipation that by opening up that income bracket that we're going to be serving any less of that very low. And as the staff report notes, the project currently supports a significant number of extremely low, which is the 30% AMI. And since it's a project-based voucher, system, it does allow for any residents, there's no deterrent to the property accepting a resident in within any portion of those AMIs because they continue to receive the HAP payment that makes up the fair market value from the 30% income of the individual. So the project is kept whole by having the project-based vouchers. So there's no concerns that there would be any displacement, discrimination, or deterring of the lower income residents from continuing to be able to be housed there.
Excellent. And I must say, I appreciate that this renovation is going to be done without displacing anyone permanently. I mean, they may be moved around a little bit. And I appreciate that they're willing to add 10 more years of affordability to the project. So, thank you.
Would you like a
We need
motion?
I'll entertain a motion.
Okay, I'll be happy to do it. I move that we adopt resolution number 2023-45, approving, oh wait, no, we did not. I'm sorry. Before I make this motion, we did find one error that needs to be corrected.
That's correct. Within the agreement, section 5.03, subpart C, the language should actually read, notwithstanding subparagraph B, in no event shall the tenant portion of the rent for any affordable housing exceed 30% and so forth. So we just have to make a correction there.
Yeah, and I'll note this is in substantial form, so there's actually another one in there too that we have to correct, and we'll correct those in the final document.
Okay, so I move the corrected version of adopted resolution, number 2023-45, approving transfer of ownership and the amended and restated Affordable Housing Agreement, HA 2023-0002, thereby adjusting area median income levels and extending the period of affordability.
Second.
Call for a vote.
The motion passes unanimously. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 9C, receipt of fiscal year 2022-23 Simi Valley Public Library Annual Report, and Management Analyst Kelly Tinker and Simi Valley Public Library Director Kelly Beely are here to present this item.
Good evening, Mayor Thomas, members of the City Council. I'm just going to log in and get the PowerPoint up for us real quick. Each year, staff works with the city's library services provider, Library Systems and Services, to provide an annual report to the library board, which includes information on library usage trends throughout the year and an update on how the efforts of library and city staff are supporting the strategic plan's priority areas. This evening, I am accompanied by the Simi Valley Public Library Director, Kelly Beely, to present the library's annual report from fiscal year 2022-23. And Kelly Beely, you can take it away.
Good evening, Mayor Thomas and members of City Council. I want to thank you for your ongoing support for the Simi Valley Public Library. During the 22-23 year, the library spaces were in very high demand. The library's community room, business center, teen lounge, conference room, rose garden, discovery garden, and general seating areas served as official and unofficial meeting spaces for thousands of community members. Staff often heard customers report that they could not find space for quiet individual study because groups were occupying the tables, and groups struggled to find areas large enough to accommodate them. The need for future space planning for the library was very, very clear this year. I want to also talk about Meet Me at the Library. It's a unique program which started here in Simi Valley and was presented at the annual American Library Association Conference in Chicago this June. The program allows school site employees to invite students and families to meet them at the public library. Classrooms and, in some cases, entire schools were invited to visit the library for a fun evening event, and whole families were registered for their library cards. $142,731 people visited the library, and that's an increase of 27% compared to last year. 341,517 physical books, movies, and audiobooks were borrowed, an increase of more than 10% compared to the previous year. And 71,419 digital or electronic items from the Hoopla and Cloud Library platforms were borrowed by Simi Valley residents, and that's an increase of 34% compared to 2021-2022. 4,213 new borrowers were registered this year, and 226 of those new cardholders were registered at the Meet Me at the Library events. So implementation of the library's current 5-year strategic plan began in fiscal year 22-23, with notable successes in each of the following priority areas. Under building community, looking to build a stronger community through library services, the libraries emphasized this priority area in several ways, including improving access to workforce development opportunities, connecting job seekers to employers, and equipping the community to learn new skills, partnering with the Simi Valley Youth Employment Services and Simi Valley Chamber of Commerce to host a job fair, the second such event at the library, and attendance grew up to 700 people this year. Workshops created to teach teens the basics of money management and business strategy, and educational programming brought to the community by field experts, working professionals, enthusiasts, and more. For the priority area of connect and increase access,
connecting community members to each other and to their library through ensuring services remaining accessible to everyone and creating a comfortable space for modern library users, extending library hours to include Friday mornings for customers' convenience, develop plans for upcoming mobile library service designed to increase access to services for people who cannot easily get to the library, meeting patrons where they are, the Interactive Library Unlimited program for adults with adaptive needs, showcasing relevant library resources and providing engaging activities to encourage connection and community, and improving functionality and adaptability to meet the needs of communities, such as operating as a cooling center or as a community gathering place during PSPS events. Under the priority area of enhanced services, serving the diverse community through excellent library services by way of development of a community needs-based collection, improving program offerings for all ages, and creating opportunities for teens to connect with each other, such as through the Teen Advisory Group's PICS collection, curated with teens and young adults in mind, as well as multicultural storytime featuring guest readers and staff who read selections in a language other than English, providing children with exposure to stories in the cadences of several languages and a wide range of folktales from around the world. English conversation groups to help English language learners practice their skills and gain confidence, partnering with community organizations. And lastly, build awareness, benefiting the full community by building awareness of library services through branding the library as a destination for connecting with the community, making new and existing residents aware of services and programs, and launching an e-newsletter to increase awareness of library services, providing regular library highlights and upcoming events, and promoting agency partners and organizations. Special projects and additional funding taking place at the library. Library and city staff continue to identify grants and funding opportunities that will continue to benefit library programs and services available to our community. Grant funds have been awarded to provide funding for programming like Zip Books, which is used for the purchase of books and DVDs requested by the library users, as well as Lunch at the Library, funding the support project supplies for Eat, Learn, and Play programs and summer lunchtime site visits to the community partner locations. Simi Valley Public Library applied for California Library Literacy Services in fiscal year 22-23 with $85,000 funded in the upcoming year, enhancing services and offsetting costs for adult literacy and English as a second language program that were previously approved by our library board. Community project grant funds were recently received by the Friends of the Library from the city of Simi Valley, with a $10,000 grant dedicated to procuring an opening day collection for the upcoming mobile library. Creation of a Simi Valley Public Library Foundation to raise funds for special projects, spearhead capital campaigns, and offer planned giving opportunities. Charter board officers were recruited during the spring of 2023, and the foundation looks forward to expanding the board once incorporation is completed. And the city of Simi Valley has also been awarded $350,000 from the California State Library for the Building Forward Infrastructure Grant Project to be used to update the library's aging electrical infrastructure, and has also applied for additional funding in round 2 of that same grant program with hopes of securing additional funds.
The Read Across America program was held in February in partnership with the Simi Educators Association, and we were honored to have you, our mayor and city council members, as guest readers for that event. Simi Valley Unified School District board members, Ventura County Fire Department, and members of Simi Valley Police Department were also featured readers. The community received a preview of the upcoming March 2024 Little House on the Prairie 50th Anniversary Festival at our Read Across America event, too. This past summer, Moorpark College Photography Department, Simi Valley Cultural Arts Center, and the library partnered together to host a photography exhibit at the library. An artist reception event included a panel discussion in which the artists spoke with guests about their artwork, the importance of photography, and the issues the art form is facing today. As Kelly Tinker mentioned, the Simi Valley Library Foundation has been launched. They now have acquired their 501c3 status, and they are poised to begin fundraising efforts for special projects, spearhead the capital campaigns. Their mission is to ensure that there's a thriving library in Simi Valley for generations to come.
So looking ahead, LS&S is in the recruiting process to fill the positions of mobile library services and adult literacy and English as a second language coordinator. Staff has identified a cooperative purchase agreement that can be used in the procurement of the mobile library services vehicle. Funding awards for round 2 of the California State Library's Building Forward Grant Program should be announced in the next several days, and staff is hopeful that the city may receive additional funds dedicated to the renovation of the library. Staff is working to finalize a request for proposal for architectural design services for the building renovation, which will provide the foundation for the scheduling and phasing of the building's construction, or renovation, I should say. And Simi Valley Public Library Foundation, as Kelly Bewley had said, has been established and is working toward incorporation and will be dedicated to supporting the library through funding opportunities, capital campaigns, special projects, etc. This concludes our presentation, and staff and LSNS are available for any additional questions that you may have.
Councilmember Lister?
It's wonderful to have the two Kellys together making this happen. We're enjoying that. My question is that I was impressed to learn that you have almost 35,000 library card holders, of which I think more than 4,000 were this year, which represents more than a fourth of our community. I guess my question is, do we restrict library cards to residents of our community, or how does that work?
No, in the state of California, part of the California Library Services Board protocols state that a library card is free to anybody who resides in the state, and then there is a charge for somebody who lives out of state.
Got it. Okay, that's helpful to know. Another quick question. Literally yesterday, someone at church came up to me and, talking about the library, asked me how this person could go about getting genealogical library services, and thought, oh, there. And so is there, I didn't really have a good answer. Is there a genealogical component at all right now at the library, or is that just a class someone could offer, or what should have my response have been?
If there was a lot of interest in that, that would be very, very exciting. There's not a librarian on the planet who doesn't want to provide that. At this time, we do not have the Ancestry.com database. If there is significant interest in the community, I think that would be a great place to go.
Okay, so she should just come get involved and generate the interest. Got it. Okay. I loved reading the report and all the great things that you've referenced. And I might add, going back to Read Across America Day, my granddaughter absolutely loved making the rag doll, which was one of the activities with the Little House on the Prairie. But I was intrigued by the Zip book program. I understand there was a $6,000 grant that was received. Has that been exhausted, or can how does that work?
We got more this year.
Oh.
So yes, we do have to expend it all, of course, within the fiscal year period, and we are doing that again. And the requests are coming in by our local residents.
And so local residents says, I really would love this book, and then it allows that book to be shipped to their house, they read it, and then they bring it to the library to be put into circulation.
Correct.
Is that basically how it works?
Because the idea is if somebody wants it, somebody else is going to want it as well.
What a great program. And I was impressed, I don't think it was referenced, but the library is a designated cooling center, I believe. And there's some electrical updates that are happening that will allow that to be even a good charging place and all that good stuff.
We are done with those we are doing electrical upgrades to the building, but the building itself is on Tesla battery packs and a generator. So if the power goes out, the battery packs will run it for about 18 hours. When that goes out, then the generator kicks in and it'll run it until we'll keep giving it fuel.
So everyone come to the library in the case of emergency. Is that what I'm hearing?
Or the senior center.
Or the senior center, exactly. And how exciting that there's a foundation being established and that they've got their charter to be supportive of all of your efforts. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councilmember Rhodes.
I just wanted to say I have a question for Kelly. I really didn't have a question, I'm sorry.
I said it sounds like a law firm, Kelly.
Well, I did do a tour of the library, and I got an explanation of where they're going in the future, and I was really excited about it. I can't wait to see it transform. I think we have a wonderful library. Any other questions?
I just have a quick one.
Oh, yes.
Sorry.
Councilmember Kavanaugh.
I was bragging that we are going to have a mobile library. Is there another one in the county that we know of?
Ventura County Library System does have a mobile library.
Okay, because I was at a county event and they were talking about it. I said, we've got one. We just approved it, so I was very excited to be able to do that, and I'm looking forward to that. That's a great object, and I know it was one of your wishes. Yes. So thank you.
Can I get a motion?
I motion that we receive and file the Simi Valley Public Library Annual Report for fiscal year 2022-23.
Second?
Call for a vote.
The motion passes unanimously. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 10A, City Council member reports.
Councilmember Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My report will be short. Just after our city council meeting last, I attended the impromptu grand reopening of the junkyard, which we were very happy to see open back in our society. And from ownership, they thanked the city for their diligence in making sure that we were on top of what we needed to do to get them back open. Also that same day, I attended, not on behalf of the city, but on behalf of my Rotary Club, a meeting with the Parks Department about installing a peace pole, and we're working through some administrative challenges on possibly doing that, but it's a project that I might also bring towards the city. And then just today, we finally decided on our first ad hoc committee meeting for the beginning to discuss the amphitheater project, and so I'm looking forward to meeting this week with Councilwoman Litster on that project. And Mr. Mayor, that ends my report.
Councilmember Litster.
Thank you, Mayor. On Thursday, September the 13th, I attended and chaired the VCOG board meeting that was held at Camarillo. And we had District Attorney Eric Nazarenko, who spoke to us and updated us on all of the elements that they're doing in their drug fighting efforts, and really educated us about amphetamines and all of what's going on and how it's being fought, et cetera. And he had an excellent bank of PowerPoint, which I wanted to share with all of you. Unfortunately, right, I need to figure out, I will get it to you. It's just that it was password protected with someone else's email. So I need to find a way to get it so it's so it's a little more accessible for you, but I'll get you get that.
When
get
you
that to you.
send that, send
Yes.
it to
Sue.
myself or
Of course.
Sue, and then we will distribute it.
Yes, of course. And I was going to send it to Sue, but yes, like I said, came to me password protected, and I think it needs to be rectified first. Also attended the AWA Ventura County's 20th annual member and elected officials reception for basically the Water Association, and I actually wanted to commend our Calleguas Commissioner Raul Avila, who was conducting that event and is representing as well, and just the whole discussions. It's good. Appreciate the representation and the discussions that ensued there. Actually, on Sunday, September 17th, Monday, September 18th, Tuesday, September 19th, I attended Simi's very first annual film festival. And I will tell you, it was phenomenal. It really was first class the way it was done, the level of films and producers and directors that were there, and the discussion. I wasn't there the whole time, all 3 days, but I did show up all 3 days in a row and caught different things. One time it was a film. I actually caught some of their lectures about, I learned more about music production, sound production behind the scenes. It was, in fact, my question was, why is not every film student at Moorpark College attending this? It was really that educational and that well done. And I just want to commend Joseph Metcalf, who had the vision to put that on. He's a resident here in Simi Valley and also a very gifted film composer, and Katie as well, just for their efforts in bringing that to Simi Valley. And it's my understanding that this is the first annual and that hopefully it will continue for the next some time. And really, it was all about promoting Simi Valley as a place for filming. And part of what they shared, and Mayor, you may have seen it, but they shared a film promoting Simi Valley as a place for filming, and it was a beautifully done film, and it made me excited, wanted to come make a film here, and I'm not a filmmaker, but it was really, really well done. And I understand possibly that they keep doing this, and within 5 years, it may even be considered an Academy Awards level screening. I'm not sure quite how that works, but that it rises to the level that it can contribute to the voting somehow to that. But so lovely that Simi Valley has that happening, and that was done actually up at the town center. Studio Movie Grill was the location of that. On Wednesday, September 20th, chaired the Simi Valley Community Arts Commission meeting, and it was great to hear the financial strength of what they're doing. They also was presented to us what the variety of events that are taking place there. I should add right now, the prom, I think, has one more week of performance. Unfortunately, they had to close a few days because of COVID, but I believe this week they've added an additional day, so Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I believe, are the closing days of that production. That we also discussed, because this body here approved new bylaws, we discussed then what that means as far as our role and responsibilities, and so we will be meeting again specifically to brainstorm what we should be doing as a commission. On Thursday, also on that day, Wednesday, September 20th, I spoke to the Simi Valley Chamber Economic Development Group, and they had invited me to basically speak about my proposal for the outdoor amphitheater here at Civic Center. And so basically, I gave them a similar version to what I shared before this council, and they found that interesting. And I actually have someone doing some historical work for me because I want to find out even more of the fun history. Thursday, September 21st, thank you to our city manager, Brian Gabler, and city attorney, David Caceres, who both met with me and answered questions. It is always appreciated. And finally, Friday, September 22nd, I attended the Sum of All Music Orchestra first orchestra rehearsal. And I'm going to call it the Simi Orchestra because it's here in Simi Valley. We rehearsed and gathered at Sinaloa Middle School. It is open to musicians of all ages and all abilities, and rusty to professional, and you could tell. Our first notes, the director, Mr. Joe Metcalf, was very gracious, but I will tell you, by the end of the evening, we were sounding good. And so more to come. Of course, this effort is in conjunction with Little House on the Prairie, and this community orchestra will be performing for that event in March. And so anyway, I'm glad we have lots of great things happening in our community. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Councilmember Kavanagh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On Thursday, September 14th, I also attended the AWA elected officials reception. It was a great event. It always is. Yes, Raul did a great job chairing it. And I also wanted to recognize Brian Miller. Brian Miller is assistant to Kelly Long, Supervisor Kelly Long, but he's also a Simi Valley resident and used to work for Elton Gallagly and such. And he received a nice award from the AWA for all the work that he's done and for some specific things, and I don't have the details. But he was very, very surprised. It was very unexpected, which is kind of the best type. So congratulations to Brian. On Saturday, September 16th, I attended Santa Susana Baseball, my oldest grandson. They're all 8 o'clock games. They need to make the little kids later games. That's what I keep telling my mom. So on Wednesday, well, actually Tuesday, September 19th through Friday, September 22nd, I attended the California League of Cities up in Sacramento. It was a great time, great sessions, great speakers. Myself, Mayor Pro Tem Mike Judge, he might talk about it also, and our 2 assistant city managers, Linda Swan and Samantha Argerbright, all attended. Oh, and city deputy assistant city attorney Sonia and Melissa. Yes. So we had quite a good representation up there. But I hadn't been in a few years, so I thought it was a good time to go, and I really enjoyed it. We stayed at the hotel was right next to the convention center, so we were able to just walk right down the street a block, and it was right there. Great sessions, great programs. 2 of my favorite programs, I went to one called Addressing the Fentanyl Crisis. And Chief, I know you guys are on top of a lot of stuff with this, but they had a lieutenant from San Bernardino Sheriff's, and they have a specific, a group. It's a lieutenant, a sergeant, 2 detectives, a DA, and specifically working on fentanyl cases. It was really kind of interesting. I'll get some information. You probably already have it all, but he was, okay, yes, exact task force. I couldn't think of the word. But the lieutenant was very involved in it, and they had done a great job on it. And I'm thinking, I bet you we're already involved in doing all this stuff too. Actually, a lot of the stuff they did talk about, I said, no, we're already doing that. No, we're already doing that. And then one of the other ones I went to, it was called Enhancing Emergency Preparedness Through Whole Community Opportunities. And I'm like, we're doing that, we're doing that, we're doing that. I actually got up at the end for questions, and I said, you know what, you guys, you talked about a lot of different things, but none of you mentioned CERT or DART. And a lot of the communities are smaller, and so they don't necessarily have it. I said, but they were talking about, neighborhood, you need to get your neighborhoods involved. And I go, well, that's what CERT is. So I just told them you should really include a little bit more information on that when you're dealing in this type of a thing. I don't think they liked me telling them that, but other than that, it was good. We did not have an EDC meeting because there were at least 18 sitting council members from the county of Ventura at this event. So we didn't have enough. We have a nice picture of the majority of us that were there. So it was pretty good. And that's it for me.
Mayor Pro Tem Judge.
Mr. Mayor, on Tuesday, September 12th, I attended Royal High School Citizen Scholar Institute and spoke to the students there. It used to be called the Brown Bag Lunch. I always have a great time doing that. The students have outstanding questions. Most of them just want to know about stuff that was going on in the city, what was new and things like that. On September 13th, I attended the Ventura County Taxpayers Association meeting, or get together, whatever to call it. It was, they had a speaker there, Mr. Arthur, Laffer. And he was very informative. I did not know, and I probably should have, I guess. He was the one that invented the economic system that President Reagan worked under. And prior to that, he had the economic system for Governor Brown's first term as governor in our state. So he's a very well-rounded individual. On Thursday, September 14th, I too attended the AWA conference over at the Ronald Reagan Library. Very informative. You're right, Raul did a great job putting that on, and he was very informative. All the speakers they had there, especially the one woman from the San Joaquin Valley, was very, very informative and very blunt about the problems with our state and the water. I appreciated that. On Friday, September 15th, I want to say happy Rosh Hashanah to all the Jewish friends out there, and I know I'm not going to say this right, but Shana Tova, my wife told me to say. I know I butchered that Hebrew. Yeah, I told you I would. Saturday, September 16th, I attended along with the mayor the Filipino Catholic community celebrating their 30th anniversary over at St. Peter Claver. They had a great dinner. I was there last year with Mayor Mashburn. They're a great group of people. They do a great service to that Catholic community, and St. Peter Claver is lucky to have them. I said it's always a great opportunity to see them. I too attended League of Cities last week. Sacramento is Sacramento. I was interested in something, a couple of things that all kind of go together. Marijuana retailers are having a problem in our state. Go figure. They seem to be getting hit hard by the black market. Fentanyl is a huge problem in our state, and I think both of those questions can be answered by controlling the cartels coming across our borders. Another thing I looked forward to seeing was something about our electrification process or a plan for it for our state, which was non-existent, so shocking. SB 9 was mentioned a lot, and there are a lot of different lawsuits out there against SB 9. We're not the only one. I was kind of surprised to hear that. On Saturday, September 23rd, I attended the Elks 50th anniversary. Always a great job. They do a lot of good for our community, give out a lot of money. And I want to say, as of September, I hope you're having a joyous and fulfilling and blessed Yom Kippur. And I want to say to my daughters, happy National Daughters Day today. Thank you very much. That's the end of my report.
Thank you. All right, let's get through this. I also attended the Ventura County Taxpayers Association dinner with Mr. Laffer, and not only did I find the topic interesting, but he made complicated things easy to understand, and he had a great sense of humor, and it was a very entertaining and enlightening evening. I enjoyed it. Saturday the 16th, I attended the Filipino Catholic Community 30th anniversary as well. Anniversary I share. This is my 30th year as a Simi Valley resident. It was fun, and what a nice group of people. I believe we're going to see them next month here. Then on Sunday the 17th, over the next few days, the film festival, I had a chance to meet with Joe Metcalf ahead of time when he was originally thinking about doing this. I got to tell you, this is a guy with a vision and energy and connections galore, and he did an amazing job putting this together for a first annual. There's no question in my mind that it will happen again. I'm positive of that. And I think it's something that, we should be real proud of, that it's happening here. And, there's a bigger picture on the horizon here, what he'd like to see that be a driving force behind a potential film academy for youth in the future. But with that same energy, he was organizing this, community orchestra. The guy is a
And he has
great guy.
and he has a film in 2 weeks he has to do all of music for. Anyway, I don't know how he does it.
Yeah. So, and my experience there started with the opening ceremony on Sunday, the 17th, and I arrived to be whisked off into the corner of the parking lot and loaded into a stretch limo so that I would arrive
To the red carpet.
to the red carpet in a stretch limo, walk the red carpet to the photo opportunity, which was kind of uncomfortable for me. There's all these photographers lined up, and they're telling me how to pose. That was out of my element. But after going in and sitting down and going through the intros and the welcome and so on, then Joe played a video, and it was a couple minutes long about filming. I mean, we had directors, producers, people in the film industry at this event about filming in Simi, all the advantages of filming here. He gets done, and then he said, and for those of you that are, used to doing this, you've pulled permits elsewhere, but the city of Simi has a commitment of turning those permits on I think he said 1 to 3 days, and the whole place erupted. So he was doing a good job of selling Simi Valley. I really appreciated that. Tuesday the 19th, I attended the Youth Council meeting, and like I mentioned before, what a bright group, and what a motivate. I mean, they talk about issues and then they go and do something about it. Really impressed with them. I really am. And that is the end of my report. So, I'm going to call for any future agenda items. Okay. Then in that case, a couple of things I want to say. One, I would like to say happy 100th birthday to Helen Beebe. Oh, yeah, I saw that. That's quite a milestone. And I would like to adjourn tonight's meeting in memory of Los Angeles County Deputy Sheriff Ryan Klinkenbrummer and Kathy Reamer, Lee Seaton's sister-in-law. Thank you, everybody. Good night, and have a nice evening.